Hi, welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy and Reality, where we're conjuring up compassion. I am Shannon Malone-deBenedictis. I am a documentary filmmaker, workshop facilitator, and public speaker, and I talk about body image and acceptance in the workplace. And here, my co-host.
I'm Elara Dunn, author of the Magic Locker series, a fantasy series that gives people who are bullied magic powers to defend themselves and gives them a place where they can be heroes. I'm also the illustrator of the books, and I am a disability rights advocate.
Fantastic. So that's superheroes and advocacy and all those things. I think is a good thing to talk about our topic today. Start to talk our topic today. Um, and everybody, there's going to be word salads in this. Just bear with it. It makes us charming. So we're talking about finding your strengths. What are the strengths that we have overtly and implicitly that we have explicitly and implicitly. And I think this is important for us to talk about because both Alora and I, we are in the fifth decade of our lives. We've been through a lot. We've seen a lot. We're not so jaded that we're like, old woman yelling at cloud. But we're also kind of experienced. What was that?
For yourself.
Well, no, I yell at them. Don't get me wrong, but I also go, wait a minute, why am I yelling at the cloud? Hold on a second. I like to think that we're still malleable. I think that's it. We're not completely, we're not like set. We're still malleable. And I think discovering your strengths is something that is sometimes takes time and takes hindsight.
It's
So
ongoing.
it's
Absolutely.
on. It's ongoing. So, and this is important to me because one of the I teach a class on Udemy and give workshops called "Sell Yourself Like a TV Show," and it was born out of. I've been in the TV business for 25 years. I've sold documentary and series ideas to most of the networks that are out there, the big entities that are out there. Um, and so I've had to find and what are those key selling points for those shows. But before that, in my 20s, I was a talent agent for advertising marketing professionals. So I advocated for other people. And what I've seen is that a lot of people, myself included, have difficulty identifying what we're really good at, what our strengths are. And we're particularly focused on titles and we're particularly focused on maybe roles, but not necessarily the tasks or the soft skills or the things that are in there. And so I work in my class to teach people to identify the strengths that they have by using a TV show as a way to break it down and then turning that camera metaphorically on themselves. So, Alara, tell me about your thoughts on this subject.
Well, my mom often said, you never know what life is preparing you for. And it's so true. Case in point, I actually volunteered with the Make-A-Wish Foundation for 5 years before my children were born.
Oh, wow.
You
Yeah.
never know what life is preparing you for.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
it's interesting because when I was in the hospital with them,
Mm-hmm.
the thoughts of all these kids went through my head. They were smiling in these photos.
Mm-hmm.
And that really helped get me through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also, I'm an employer and I've been an employee as well. And
Mm-hmm.
like so often, as you said, it's filling out a resume or talking about yourself. You could say, well, I was just a clerk at a small store, like I don't have any experience doing XYZ. It's, well, what did you do as a clerk there? If you're
Mm-hmm.
in a small store, like were there times maybe you were left alone and you had to make the decisions in the store, because a small store often won't have a manager, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to make that decision. Do I need to call the manager? Can I make a decision here? So that's got to have really strong decision making skills. um and often I'll see like skills, organization. What does that mean? It's just like the
Mm-hmm.
title. They're taught to put skills on a resume, but when I ask about it, they can't really talk about it. So really think, what did I do? It does not matter what the job was. what did I do there? What did this get me ready for? Absolutely anything that you've done, you can find, okay, you were good at this, you were not so good at this, and just think about it.
I think also when you recognize that is that it allows you to succeed in ways because you get to step back too. And that sounded really confusing. So let me explain. Is as I've grown through television, I started as an editor and I worked my way up, and slowly I've become a showrunner and executive producer. During that time, I recognized what I'm good at, what I'm really good at, and what I'm not good at. And um, due to things that, you know, sometimes it's just not don't have the talent, and sometimes it's things maybe that just doesn't interest me too much. Usually, okay, fine, I'll get over it, you know. But that, and I just recently had an experience where there was a shoot out in the field, and it was kind of an important shoot, with some very important talent. And they said, "Do you want to direct it?" Now, most people in my position would jump at directing it. But I know my personality is twofold. One, I don't have patience. I've joked about undiagnosed ADHD because people of our generation weren't really diagnosed with ADHD and whatnot. So I am from the Ed Wood school of directing of it's perfect, move on, which is not good for a director. There's a reason why he's considered the director of the worst movie of all time. This is not the way you want to do it,
I would be like,
right?
again, 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 like I'm
Yeah,
so
exactly. I
perfectionist, you
mean,
know.
it's not, you know, and so I realize that in my personality, it's just not something big in my personality. And the other thing in my personality is I tend not to be I'm not really good at sucking up to somewhat important people. I'm not good at that. So so to put myself in a situation where I'm the key person on the ground, I'm leading this, I'm going to have to do multiple takes and do all that. I recognize that I'm not the best person to do it, but I'm really good at putting together teams and inspiring teams who can do those certain elements and get those things done. And so we found a great director who has great attention to detail, doesn't have ADHD, is comfortable doing multiple shoots, and is really good at working with high-end talent. And the shoot went magnificently. It went better than any of our expectations. It wouldn't have done that if I had done it, right? And I think that's freeing in many ways, as well as beneficial to the overall work. If
Right,
you can recognize what you're good at and what your strengths are, and then what is something that, you know what, maybe you ought to hand off to somebody else. That's not saying you don't want to do it just because you just don't want to do it.
right,
I don't want to do my books every month. I swear to God, I don't want to do my books every month, but I have to do it. So that's something I will have to learn. And get it done. So I think I think there's something freeing in recognizing what you're really good at too.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I find often in finding these things is just talking to somebody about it.
Yes.
They can sort of, you know, I talk about a lot of things to people and it just sort of like helps like concretize everything. Is that a word? It
Mhm.
should be concretize. To make concrete the
Yes.
idea, the concept.
I like that.
Let's add making up words as one of my skills.
Sure. Well, I mean, if the kids can do 67 and make that mean something, we can do concretize and that
Yeah.
works fine. Yeah.
So
Yes.
how do you draw that out of people?
I really, in working with people, I enjoy mentoring people. I enjoy working with them and helping them identify what their strengths are. I think part of it is very early on establishing a relationship with them, a rapport with them that I'm going to let you grow. I'm going to give you experiences. I'm going to let you explore new things. I'm going to put you on a leash, but it'll be a long leash. And you're going to fail. You're going to mess up. But I'm not going to, as long as it's not something done maliciously, or as long as it's not something done, um, uh, with intent of doing damage or complete disregard for the project or whatnot, um, uh, I'm going to back you. I'm going to back you up. And I've had this happen. I've had this happen with a few employees who, they've messed up. And it's like, okay, well, let's talk through it. Let's talk through what we can do and what we can learn from this and to help you grow, because that's only going to help them get better. And I think that particularly in the workplace, um, I'm going to try not to monologue here. I think there are two things that are lacking. Number one is, just because you're the best at the role doesn't mean you should go into a management or leadership position. To use a sports analogy, a perfect example of that is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is arguably the greatest basketball player who's ever played. He is not a good coach, right? Not at all. Just because you are the best at something doesn't mean you are the best person to lead. And in fact, his good, not great, but good teammate, Steve Kerr, is an amazing coach. So that tells you something. So I think that part of it is, when you put people in leadership positions, you don't also give them the training or the support to make them as successful in their job. I was in a really unusual situation where I was thrust into a management position when I was 25. Um, and I look back on it and I find it just kind of batshit insane that I was thrown into a leadership position overseeing about 15 employees and running a $5 million business. Um, and I dove into as much learning as possible because I was like, oh, I got to figure this out. So I think that's one thing. I think the other thing is, I think that a lot of management and people are reluctant to give negative feedback to people. And because they don't want to seem harsh, they don't want to be disliked, they don't want to be or they just don't want to be the bad guy. They just don't want to be that person. But what they're doing is they're not helping that employee be more successful in the future.
Right.
So, in management, there's a phrase of, in a pleasant way, you say you present the Oreo. In the kind of more crude way, you say you give the employee a shit sandwich, which is you couch it in positive, critical feedback, positive ways to continue to be things. And I think that people are usually reluctant to do that and don't see that that actually can harm in helping that person grow in the long
Exactly.
term. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, I monologued. I totally
No, that's
monologued.
good.
Yeah. Has that been your experience in terms of being both as an employer and employee? Do you find that lacking, or have you been successful in finding those types of environments?
So I'm always looking at things from other people's point of view. Um, Always have. So I find that, like, when you're a manager, you really have to give somebody a chance. Actually, speaking of applicable skills, we had an employee just working retail in a clothing store. There was an employee that was just
Hmm.
terrible, hated everything about his job. Um, it could not sell to people, was just, always lurking in the back or hiding from the job. So one day it was just me and him, and I was frustrated. So I'm like, just go reorganize these polos in the back, right?
Hmm.
Turns out he was really good at stock. He ended up reorganizing them so well and
Yeah.
so out of the box of what we had been doing in the pat. He organized them, instead of by style, by size. Brilliant. Somebody asked, you have this and this size, you're not going through an entire stack,
Yeah.
which is what we were doing. So he did a better job at it. He had pride in what he was doing. And I was like, I'll tell you what, you come out during the lunch rush, and after that's done, you go right back and organize something else. He's like, deal. And he did okay on the sales floor and then went back. That employee ended up getting sent to different stores to work in their stock rooms.
Oh, that's great.
And
Yeah.
so he ended up getting like more money, and it was just, he was horrible. He was like the worst employee. And as soon like we gave him something that he didn't even know
Hmm.
he was good at. and
Yeah.
he enjoyed doing. And it's just, again, you never know. And that is exactly the perfect applicable skill,
Hmm.
is that he made a decision. He made a good decision. He made everything easier. He organized, and that's when you just put organized, that tells me nothing. If you tell me how you organized, or think about it yourself, if you need an
Yeah.
applicable skill for yourself. Well, how did I organize? Well, how did I do this? And how did this better what the job that I was working for?
Yeah, I think and that is something that you mentioned earlier about if you don't see this, if you have difficulty seeing this in yourself, I highly always encourage people, ask your coworkers, ask your colleagues, what are my strengths? If you had to come to me to solve a problem in your business, what would you come to me for? Or tell me something that you think I'm really, really good at. And so it's not you staring into a mirror, it's someone giving you that feedback to maybe go back and look at things.
Yeah, that's exactly why I wanted to do this
Yeah,
episode, because
yeah.
it's hard. I lack self-esteem, that's no secret. And it is hard when you don't have self-esteem to be able to talk about it. So
Mhm.
that whole conversation is exactly why I'm hoping people who are watching this
Yeah.
understand that yes, you have something of worth. Everybody
You
does.
you absolutely have something in worth, and then it's shaping it in a way of saying when you're implying talking to people, you're applying for jobs, you're promoting yourself, is I've solved this problem because ultimately employers are like, how are you going to make my business better? And it's like, well, I can solve these problems. I can do this. How can I make your stores better? I totally rearranged how they stocked their goods and made things infinitely more efficient by my new stocking system. There you go. That's part of it. And I think recognizing those strengths, as someone who struggles with self-esteem, who struggles with it, what I tell myself is, okay, I just need to be a confident goddess for 10 minutes. Can I do it for 10 minutes? Right? It's like you give yourself these little things.
Yes.
It's like when I'm at the gym, I can do anything for 30 seconds. Okay, I can figure out a way to do a plank for 30 seconds or a side plank or something, right? It's the same thing. It's like, okay, just find that reservoir. And when you know what those things you're really good at, you know what those strengths are, you're able to tap into that energy. You're able to tap into
Right.
that confidence.
And
Yeah.
to use myself as an example, if we're ready to wrap things up, it is interesting that I was a retail manager for 13 years. And when I had twin disabled children,
Hmm.
I realized how efficiently I could work.
Oh,
You
yeah.
need to be efficient. And I'm just like, like redoing your cabinets is not, for efficiency in that situation, is not that different from restocking shelves.
Yeah.
I now have caregivers for my daughters, and I've been a manager. I've been both an employee and an employer, so I think I really started with some advantages
Yeah.
over parents that didn't have that. So it's like it's there, and even if it's not job to job, I mean, it's how do you run your household? How do you do this? There's just think about it, everything you're doing, and you're
Hmm.
you're going to be able to form who
Yeah.
you are.
That's exactly it. Well, thank you. Like I said, I'm Shannon Malone-deBenedictis, workshop facilitator. I do have a class on discovering your strengths called Sell Yourself Like a TV Show. You can find it on my website, paddlingcreative.com, and it'll bring you over to Udemy. You can also set up an appointment with me or just kind of read my essays and my blog. And my colleague,
Hi, I'm Elara Dunn. Can be found at themagiclocker.com. And I actually have a new newsletter that you can sign up for there too, where I'll be talking about different things, not only with my books, but different things to help people who maybe feel lonely or suffer from low self-esteem.
and everybody share this podcast, please. We like numbers. If you like it, like it. If you think people enjoy it, please share it. That helps everybody. Okay. Until next time, bye.
Bye.